Oh, hey friends, how's it going? I have kind of a special night ahead for us. I have Murder at Chateau de Rouge, which is, if you don't know, is the game that my sister created from start to finish by herself. She's really cool, so I hope that you'll enjoy this game as much as I do. Hi everyone! Hi Amy, hi Morgan, nice to see you guys. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. I mean, look at this. Like, look at this beautiful, like, mansion house, whatever this is called. The chateau, I guess. Alright, and the thunderstorm in the background, ugh, it's just so good. Alright, let's get started. I'm so excited. Chapter 1, A Stormy Start. Lady Diana Strawberry. It was Helena's letter that first drew me back to Chateau de Rouge. There she is. So this character is modeled after my sister. So, she did have red hair at one point. By herself. That's awesome. How long did it take? I don't remember how long it took, but you know what? She's going to be doing a Spilling the Tea with Susie on Saturday, so you can ask her. This stray kitten is pregnant? Yes, I did see that real quick right before I got on. I noticed the pregnancy. I didn't get to watch the video, but that's really exciting and also kind of scary. Streamlabs is off to a crazy start. Okay. Anyway. So, Lady Diana Strawberry. Okay, so this is modeled after my sister. Super cute. Oh yeah, hopefully I can come. Oh yes, that's right. Yes, absolutely. I hope you can come. Alright. Let's get down to business. In the recesses of my mind, the chateau had always been a place of joy. So I was hardly prepared for the cold, gloomy, impersonal piece of architecture that greeted me. In my mind, Chateau de Rouge was still a large, mysterious mansion with fantastic hiding spots, a cook who produced the best fudge I had ever tasted, and grounds that were perfect for flying kites. Yet when I returned, I was struck with the differences. The house had not fallen into disrepair, quite the contrary. There wasn't a stone out of place or a rotted beam anywhere. The problem was something else entirely. There just wasn't any life there anymore. I'm ashamed to say that I hadn't spent much time there in the last several years, so of course some things had changed. But it wasn't anything that had to do with the house, really. The house looked pretty much the same. But the cook was long gone, and with her wonderful fudge recipe. And I realized that I was far too big to fit in any of my old hide-and-seek spots. The hill on which I once flew kites wasn't quite so sunny. In fact, the countryside around the chateau was experiencing a stormy spring. There was hardly a day that I was there that I wasn't plagued with a thunderstorm. So It felt like the shell of a dead thing, lifeless, broken, empty. I felt somewhat similar. So when Helena's letter reached me asking me to come spend a few days with her in the countryside at the chateau, I didn't hesitate. I hoped that by being back in the old house, some of the old good feelings would come back to me. It's hard to hear me? Okay, hold on. How's that? Yeah, I didn't even notice because I'm not on your guys' side. Thanks for telling me. Awesome, thank you. All right. Unfortunately, they didn't. Helena had told me that she would be inviting 1 or 2 other friends as well. However, she asked me to come a few days earlier if I could. As I had no pressing matters to attend to, I gladly obliged. Wow, look at that place! Oh my gosh. When I arrived, Helena was a wreck. I have never seen her so upset. Her father and I are pretty much her only family, so it was understandable. The weather didn't help the situation either. Often we couldn't go about on the town because of the frequent rain and thunderstorms. It gave the entire house a gloomy feeling. Despite the gloom, I tried to reassure her that I would be there for her and asked if she required anything, but she simply shook her head and said that she had everything she possibly could want except for her father. She was right, of course. She was a Montague. Her father had been fabulously wealthy, and it stood to reason that she would not only inherit the beautiful mansion, but that she would also receive all of her father's wealth. Of course, it was famously known throughout the village and by anyone who knew Uncle Monty that he did not believe in banks. This is important. He did, however, believe in himself and his daughter, so he kept the entirety of his fortune in the chateau itself. I didn't know specifically where Uncle Monty kept his billions, but I trusted that Helena would continue to want for nothing. Shortly after my arrival, another one of Helena's guests turned up. Oh, hello there. What's going on? Hi, Joanna. Nice to see you. You're playing cribbage. That's awesome. Good to see you guys. All right, let's meet Helena's other guest. His name was Sir Grayson Dorian. Botched that. And I had a vague inclination that Helena had mentioned him once or twice in her letters to me. For some reason, though, I got the impression that I had heard his name before outside of Helena's letters. Mysterious. But I'm not sure from where. He had very dark hair and a swarthy bearing. Apparently, Helena had met him years ago on a trip to France and had maintained a close friendship with him through correspondence. When her father passed, she thought of the 2 closest people in her life, myself and this Grayson, who had asked us both to come and spend some time with her while she was grieving. Hi, Abigail. Good to see you here. Awesome. To be honest, I was a little surprised that Sir Grayson actually came. Although I knew of him vaguely, Helena had always been something of a loner. She never had many friends because people found her dull. Yet she had always been a true friend to me, even though the bond of cousinhood tied us together, and apparently she shared a friendly bond of sorts with this Grayson as well. Yeah, save your questions for spilling the tea on Saturday. Hi, Abigail. Nice to see you. Although how friendly still remained to be seen. Oh, how friendly they getting. This Sir Grayson Dorian did seem to be something of a charmer. Oh my gosh, she just got closer. Good evening, Lady Strawberry. How delightful to finally make your acquaintance. You are as lovely as I had imagined, and as delightful and elegant as Helena described. He took a sweeping bow, and his lips brushed my hand in a polite kiss. Despite his charm and the kiss on the hand, I could tell it was all a facade. He was putting on the charm, and oh wait, my back. Ugh, did not mean to touch that. Putting on the charm, and there was no intrigue or true interest behind it. His eyes are dead. I wasn't really sure what to think of him. Should I choose to judge him? Choose to give him the benefit of the doubt? Yeah, I'm gonna judge him. He was all show, which from my previous interaction with French men did not surprise me much. I wondered briefly what Helena saw in him. It's the long hair. She likes men with long hair. A pompous, showy man who clearly thought that he was God's gift to women. Yeah, and look, he's got the buttons undone. He thinks he's all that. For a brief moment, I wondered why he was here. Of course, Helena had invited him, but there seemed to be more to it. Was he after her money? Dun dun dun. Why was he even in England to begin with? He showed up surprisingly quick. Whatever I thought of him didn't matter. He was here and our goal was to comfort Helena. But the poor dear was so distraught that nothing we could say or do could distract her from the loss of her father, and to be honest, I couldn't blame her. I was trying hard not to burst into tears myself. Oh, that's so cute. Look at that cute table. We were all comforted, however, by the presence of Helena's maid, Charlotta. She's so cute. Look at her. She regularly brought us tea, served our meals, and overall kept us in reasonably good spirit. She even provided us with candles and holders when the electricity was knocked out one evening because of the storm. I took note of her efficiency and applauded this. As much as I missed the old cook's fudge, I had to admit that Charlotta's shortbread cookies hit the spot. I even saw Helena crack a smile at one point. And that made all her efforts worth it. I wasn't sure what to think of this maid, however. As she served us our midday meal, I observed her silently. I wanted to know more about her because Helena had never mentioned the charge of staff in any of her letters, so I was curious as to how she had become part of the Montague household. Thanks for lurking along, Abby. But I'd never seen Charlotta before, so I was afraid that too many detailed questions about her employment and past might be seen as impertinent. I finally decided that I should speak to her, tell her how much I enjoyed the lunch and tea she served, but not ask any questions about herself. No, let's ask her all kinds of questions. Since most people enjoy speaking about themselves, I decided to take the chance to ask Charlotta a little bit about herself. Charlotta, tell me, did you live nearby before coming to work at the Chateau de Rouge? Yes, Mum. My family lives here in the village below the chateau. How lovely! So you were born and raised here? Why, yes, we've always lived here, and I love the English moors and countryside estates. From a young age, I dreamed of living in one of these beautiful mansions. I never dreamed that I'd ever get the chance. Is that why you chose to work here? Yes, Mum. Charlotta hesitated a moment, and I wondered what was wrong. She looked down as if suddenly sad. I wondered if I had said something wrong, or if perhaps she was afraid to talk much about her family and upbringing in front of her employer, Helena. I decided that it would be in my best interest to let it drop. The last thing I wanted to do was embarrass Charlotta or get her in some sort of trouble with my cousin. Wow, look at that room. That night, the rain came again, harder than it had on any of the previous days. I should have known that it was the harbinger of danger, and perhaps in a way I did. All I know for sure is that the rain was so hard that it swelled the river around the mansion and causing it to rise. And the storm has swollen the river. Morgan's got questions. Abigail's got answers. This had happened a few times in the past, and each time had caused flooding of major proportions around the mansion grounds, often forcing those on the property to be housebound, unable to leave the chateau for days. I've never been the kind of woman to quake at the sound of thunder, but there was something different about this storm. It felt like it was more than just an act of nature, but somehow an act of God, sent to uncover things that needed to be revealed, or expose the deeds of the guilty. As I stood at the window contemplating these thoughts, brutally to myself, I thought that I heard a noise of the sound of a howling wind. It was rapping, thudding noise, and at first I wasn't sure where it was coming from. Then I thought that perhaps it was someone knocking on the large front door. I was instantly wary because we were so far from town. How could anyone have even reached the chateau in this weather? I knew that by now the river would have swollen so high that it would be impassable to anyone from the outside. The only people who could reach us at this moment would be anyone who was already on the chateau property, and that concerned me. I was then faced with a choice. Should I face my fears and check the door to see if there was someone standing out in the rain seeking shelter? Should I run fearfully away, ignoring the thudding noise that might or might not be a terrifying intruder at the door? No, let's answer the door. Thanks for lurking along, Elizabeth. Your friend is hosting a Haunted Mansion-themed murder mystery party. That's so cool. Hi, Terry. Regardless of my fears, I didn't want to risk leaving any poor soul out on a night like this one. Even if there was someone out there who had been lurking on Montague property in the dark of night, it didn't matter. I'm going to make my screen just a little bigger for me personally. There we go. Oops. Okay. I wasn't about to let someone weather a storm of this proportion. With hurried steps, I walked to the door. By the time I got there, Charlotta had arrived too, having heard the knocking from the kitchen. Is there someone at the door, Mum? Yes, I believe that there is. Poor soul, out on a night like this one. With that, I quickly opened the door. With a rush of wind and a swirl of raindrops, the door swung open with a loud bang. A caped and hooded figure stumbled into the hall, as if driven forward by the anger of the storm. Charlotta sprung forward in action, taking the cape from the figure. Here you go, madam. Let me take that from you. The woman shook the rain droplets out of her curls as she stood there, unfurled from her drenched cape. She was beautiful with a dark, mysterious beauty. One could sense immediately that gypsy blood ran through her veins. She seemed to know Charlotta already, which I found intriguing. But she turned to me almost immediately with a glint in her eye. I am Madame Esme. You must be... She paused for a moment and squinted at me through the small spectacles that were perched on her nose. You must be Helena's cousin, Lady Diana Strawberry. I squirmed a little. Of course, I was not ashamed of my upbringing, but to have a stranger announce to me my title, name, and history as an orphan, I wasn't quite sure how to react. You probably are thinking that Helena must have told me those things, but she hasn't. You see, I am the great Madame Esme, fortune teller extraordinaire. I am a reader of cards, palms, and most of all, fortunes. I can simply look at a person and see the most intimate information about them. And of course, my crystal ball will also tell me what I want to know. Oh. Well then, you have foreseen correctly. I am Helena's cousin. I take it you are a friend of hers? Yes, Helena and I are well acquainted. She often asks to have her fortune told, or for my help in small matters. Were you looking for her? Who, Helena? Why, no. I was merely in the area, scouting the woods for herbs for my rituals. I had just found a rich source of wolfsbane when it began to rain. I started to push my cart back to our caravan, but the river had already risen so high that I couldn't make it. I knew, of course, that the nearest shelter was the chateau, and here I am. I noticed Charlotta looking sidelong at Esme. I suppose, madam, that your caravan is camped quite near the chateau right now? Esme seemed quite unconcerned about the note of suspicion in Charlotta's voice, even though it was still disguised by Charlotta's natural demure tone of respect. Oh, yes. We're camped quite close by. The woods hereabouts are quite rich with all the herbs that I need for my business, and so I made myself busy today collecting them. Surely, madam, your crystal ball must have told you that a great storm would come upon you. Or did it not tell you in time? Well, of course it told me. I just got caught up in my task and lost track of the time. I could sense the tension in the air between Charlotta and her thinly veiled accusations, and this Madame Esme and her unexplained presence on what I knew to be the private property of the chateau. I tried to change the subject and asked Charlotta if she wouldn't mind gathering everyone together for a bit of refreshment in the parlor. That music is fire. Even though the tea hour had already passed, I felt that the best way to welcome this new guest to our small house party would be with a hot cup of tea. Besides, she was still shivering from the cold and the rain, so I figured she could use some warmth. We were just about to settle in the comfort of the parlor when suddenly the room went dark. A high-pitched ring? No, I don't hear that at all. I would be lying if I didn't say that I was a tiny bit frightened. But since the lights had gone out a few times since I arrived, I chalked it up to the storm and possibly old wiring. Just as I was thinking that I should mention the wiring to Helena, I heard a crash in the kitchen. But But I knew Charlotta was in there, so I supposed that the sudden darkness had caught her off guard as well. Remembering that I had left my candle on the side table from the last time the lights went out, I reached for it in the darkness. I did not find it where I had left it. My candle is gone. Esme said nothing. In fact, she had been strangely quiet during the entire blackout, which made me nervous. Finally, I found another candle, one without a holder, and quickly lit it. As I began to light the rest of the candles in the room, I noticed that the one I was holding was white, like all the others around me. While that in itself may not have been odd, it triggered my memory that the candle that I had been carrying around for the last few blackouts was red. I realized I hadn't seen any other red candles in the house. While I was musing over these things, I noticed that Madame Esme was standing over by the window. She was silent, observing the storm as it raged outside, rain beating against the glass. She turned to me slowly and her brow furrowed. Someone in this house is in grave danger. There is evil in this house tonight. Evil like I have never felt before. The storm, it brings with it the anger of restless souls seeking whom they may devour. We are none of us safe. I shivered at her ominous words. I had never seen anyone in a trance before, but I was almost certain that Esme was in one just then. She didn't look at me. She looked through me, as if she could see the very evil that she spoke of in the room at that moment. It only lasted for a minute, though. With a shake of her head and a glance down at the crystal ball she was still carrying, she returned to herself. I suppose the storm knocked out the power. I believe so. I'm going to walk around the house and light some candles. You can join me if you wish. No, I think I'll stay put here for now. There's something about this house that I don't like. The less I see of it, the better. I left her alone and, concerned about Charlotta, hurried on my way to the kitchen. Do you guys want me to turn the music down more? Just let me know. But before I reached her, I heard a strange noise outside. I peered out the window and saw a man dressed in a purple cape with riding boots. He was crouched in the mud beneath a large oak, as if he had tripped or fallen there. I watched silently as he picked himself up with disgust and brushed off the mud as best he could, which wasn't easy in the pouring rain and driving wind. I had never seen him before. He had a mysterious bearing about him which intrigued me. Yet, I couldn't account for his presence there. He was clearly trespassing on Chateau land, but I felt somewhat sorry for him out in this weather. I found myself faced with indecision. Should I catch this stranger's attention and invite him in? Should I leave him standing out in the cold and report his trespassing to someone? No, I remember who this is and I want to invite him in. I didn't have the heart to leave anyone out in the cold like that, so I opened up the window where I had been watching him and called out to him. He seemed startled by my call because he jumped with alarm and looked as if he was trying to decide whether to make a run for it or not. I shouted out to him and asked if he would like to take shelter inside the chateau. I figured that we had already welcomed one strange trespasser into the mansion. What would one more hurt? He nodded to me and then took a few steps back into the mist and the woods that surrounded him. I thought for a second that he was going to make a run for it, back into the forest, when suddenly he reappeared, running towards me at a high speed. What? I realized almost too late that he was going to vault through the open window where I stood. I hastily took a step back and managed to get out of his way. He landed heavily on the marble floor with a thud in a crouching position. Oh my gosh! He let out a groan of pain and I ventured forward to help him up, but he denied my assistance. I couldn't help but laugh a little bit because I certainly hadn't expected him to come through the window. I told him that I would have let him in through the front door. Oh my gosh, this guy. What's y'all's first impression of the window vaulter? Surprise, mystery man through the window. So good. door. Yes, that would have made more sense, I suppose. Let me introduce myself. I am Lord Violet. He made a sweeping bow to me and then began to look around the room the best that he could in the dim light. Quite a nice place you've got here. As he looked around the hall, he seemed to notice the darkness for the first time. So, it seems that you are having a bit of an electrical problem? Oh, yes. We think the storm knocked out the power, but it only just happened before we saw you. He reminds you a little bit of Henry Bolet. Ooh, I like that. At that very moment, Sir Grayson Dorian came sweeping down the long stairway and spotted us in the hall. He looked inquisitively from me to the stranger. In quick bursts of words, I tried to explain to him about the stranger who was in need of shelter, leaving out the part about how he vaulted through the window. He listened but seemed unsure. Is that so? So, what were you doing trespassing on Montague land? Ah, you must be one of the Montague family? Dorian looked at him with suspicion. No, I am Sir Grayson Dorian, a friend of Helena Montague. And you still haven't answered my question. What were you doing on the chateau property? Well, I was out hunting. On foot. In the rain. Like a fool? Yes. No. I only just moved to the neighborhood. I live in the next estate, a few miles away. I was hunting in my own woods when I must have traveled too far. I realized that I was lost and must have wandered onto someone else's property. I got down off my horse in order to try and study the terrain and see if I could figure out where I was, when my horse was spooked by a flock of birds that took off from the underbush. My horse bolted, leaving me stranded in the woods, not knowing how far I was from home or what direction to turn. All these characters have big anime vibes. Yes, they do. Suspicious. I know. OMG, in the rain, like a fool. Do you remember that video that I made with Foxy, and then you and Brenton remade it, like, with Brenton? I had just made it to the clearing when I spotted the house, and I'm afraid to admit that I slipped in the mud and quite twisted my ankle. I'm afraid that you have caught me in a most embarrassing position, and I'm ashamed that our first meeting should be like this, miss. He turned to me and held out my hand, and I held out my hand in greeting. I do remember, yes! Strawberry, Lady Diana Strawberry. Will you let me take a look at your injury, Lord Violet? I should add that video to my Insta. Yes, you should. He graciously bowed as best he could without putting too much weight on the injury. I noticed, however, that Dorian was not too pleased. Humph. But at least he didn't try to stop me. I took the strange huntsman to the kitchen. I was hoping that Charlotta would be in there, able to bandage up his leg. Because even though I was willing to try, I had zero experience in that sort of thing, and I hoped that perhaps the capable Charlotta would know more than me. But unfortunately, the kitchen was empty, and dark. I fumbled about in the darkness with my single candle, looking for others to light. But before I had managed to find any, I felt something under my feet and heard a loud crunch. I crouched to get a closer look at what I had stepped in and noticed broken glass on the floor. It's a broken vase. When the lights went out, I heard the sound of shattering glass. But it's odd that Charlotta didn't clean up after herself. She's the maid here. Ah, it looks like it was knocked off that shelf by the window there. I looked to where Violet was pointing, and noticed for the first time that one of the windows was unlatched and rattled back and forth in the wind. Quickly, Violet noticed it too, and limped over to help me close it. The latch was loose and would hardly stay, so together Violet and I tried to secure it with a bit of string. I suppose that these old houses are always in need of small repairs like that. I nodded in agreement, but thought it was strange that the window latch was broken. Nothing else in this house seemed to be. But I shrugged it off and chalked it up to the violent storms outside. Soon, with the aid of my companion, we had managed to light a few more candles, and I looked around for something to bandage Violet's leg. Just then, Charlotta swept in. I wondered where she had been. She seemed surprised to find us there, almost a little flustered. I suppose that a maid is not used to finding anyone else in the kitchen but herself most days. Least of all a stranger such as Violet, who it appears she has never met before. Quickly, I explained to her the situation and introduced her to Violet. He limped over to her the best that he could and made a polite bow. My dear lady, I have injured my leg in a great fall and I am in need of some assistance. Could you help us find a bandage, perhaps? But, Lord Violet, you said that you were injured when you slipped in the mud when I spotted you out of the window. Wait, what did he say? Great fall. Oh, interesting. Ah, yes, indeed I did, but that is a great fall of sorts, is it not? And you know the old saying, the bigger the man, the harder the fall. I was quite sure that that was not the expression at all, but I held my tongue. Hey, Laura, good to see you. Besides, Violet was not exactly a large man. He was only a little taller than myself and slight of frame. How hard could he fall? I brushed it off and let Charlotta bandage up the huntsman's leg. Chapter 2. Dying for Disaster. Let's see. Since I wasn't needed there any longer, I thought I would go and find Helena to see if she was okay during this blackout. Suddenly, I suddenly realized that I hadn't seen her in hours, almost all day, actually. Helena had always been something of a quiet girl, needing time for herself, so it wasn't unusual for her to disappear in her room for hours at a time. So I hadn't missed her presence much. But it was nearly the supper hour, and I thought she might want to know before coming down for dinner that there were 2 more guests in the house. I didn't want her to be caught off guard by their presence. I thought that in her current emotional state, it might not be healthy for her to receive any more surprises or shocks. As far as I knew, no one had checked on her in a while. Anyway, so I knew she must be lonely. Dorian was downstairs after having questioned Violet. Esme was still in the parlor as far as I knew. Charlotta was busy fixing up Violet's bandage in the kitchen. So it seemed only right to seek her out and ask her to join the house party. Besides that, I feared leaving her alone for too long during her grieving process. I went immediately up to her room and knocked at her door. There was no answer. I knocked again and called out softly to her, "Helena, won't you come downstairs and join us?" Still there was no answer. At first I thought she might be sleeping and contemplated walking away. But a bright clap of thunder followed by a very sharp burst of thunder... Wait, did I say thunder twice? A bright clap of lightning followed by a very sharp burst of thunder made me jump, and I thought that there was no way she could be sleeping through this storm. I carefully opened the door and stepped inside. The first thing I noticed was my red candlestick in its heavy silver holder sitting on the dressing table next to the door. I picked it up, lit it from my white candle, and let the room fill with light. And that was when I saw her. At first I thought she was just sleeping. Then I noticed that her eyes were open, but she definitely didn't see me. Her arm was outstretched, lifeless. She was dead. It only took me... Excuse me. I don't know if anybody's been noticing, but I've been, choking for the last couple of minutes. It only took me a few seconds to realize that Helena, the woman who had been like a sister to me, was now gone. Immediately, I screamed, rushed to her side. Let's rush to her side. Without wasting a moment, I rushed to Helena's side. I hesitated to touch her much for fear that I might hurt her. But it only took me a moment to realize that my first impression was definitely true. She was dead. She had no pulse and she was as pale as a ghost. I looked at her intently, trying to figure out how she had died. There seemed to be no mark on her body. Until I brushed back her hair and saw something I had not noticed before. Suddenly I grew frightened. I didn't want to be alone in the darkened room with Helena any longer. I ran to the door and called loudly downstairs to anyone who would hear me. Within moments, I heard the sound of footsteps coming up the stairs. Dorian was the first into the room. "Lady Strawberry, what is wrong?" By this time, I was almost hysterical. I couldn't find my voice to tell him what was wrong. He came across the room to me and put his arm on my shoulder. I was still holding my candle, which was the only light in the room, so I suspected that he hadn't noticed Helena yet. If you will only tell me what is wrong. Madam, what is wrong? Lady Strawberry, are you hurt? Ugh. Did you have to shout so loudly to us? You interrupted a lovely vision I was having. Oh, dear me. What is wrong with Helena? Esme, who was carrying a candle of her own, was the first to notice my cousin's prostrate, limp form on the bed. Helena. He rushed to her side and placed a hand upon her back, as if trying to wake her up, but it was no use. I thought I spotted a tear in his eye as he tried to, without success, to find a sign of life. No, Dorian, she's gone. Nothing can help her now. Esme went quickly to his side as if to comfort him. But we must get help. I will fetch a doctor. But sir, the water has risen. No one can leave or approach the mansion. Charlotte, I'm just gonna hop in front of Lady Strawberry like that. Who knows how long it will be before we can even leave? Dorian looked supremely annoyed at the maid as he stared her down. You have a phone, do you not? Charlotta returned his stare. When the blackout happened, I tried to call the electrician in town, but it wasn't working. I suppose somehow the phone lines got ruined in the storm somehow. Of course, they must have been burned by a lightning strike. Curses! So, we have no doctor, no phone lines, and no way to help Helena? The best that we can do for her now is find out what happened to her. But what can we do? We're not detectives. We are. She looks unharmed. Could it be that she has a bad heart? Her father died of a heart attack. Perhaps it was hereditary. This is not a natural death. Helena was taken by no corporeal malady. She was murdered. Dun, dun, dun. Abiel said a little while ago, fun fact, join me during spilling the tea with Susie because I'm going to tell the story of this hallway. It's from an actual haunted hotel, and I have a story. Ooh, very cool. Hi, Casey. An audible gasp circulated the room. Murder, madam. But how? She is not hurt. There is no blood. I don't see anything that suggests a murder. But I do. What do you see, madam? When I first came to check on Helena, I didn't see anything either. In fact, she looked so natural, I thought she must be sleeping. Of course, I noticed her eyes open, and the strange way she was laying. So you realized that she must be dead? At that moment, I nodded at Dorian and went over to Helena and pushed back some of her hair on her forehead. Oh, I didn't see that before. I, too, almost missed it. She has a slight whelp on her forehead, suggesting that she was hit on the head. It's small and hardly there, but she's small, and I'd imagine that even a slight knock on the head could really hurt her, or kill her. But murder is so frightening. Isn't it possible that she somehow tripped, hit her head on a piece of furniture, and then stumbled onto the bed? I suppose it's possible, but there really isn't any way to prove that theory. Some of the most mysterious murders are committed by poison. Violet's introduction was so sudden that we all turned to look at him. And poison is often considered to be the weapon of choice of women. Charlotta took a quick step forward to Violet. Who are you accusing, Lord Violet? No one. I'm simply presenting a different theory as to what could have happened. Oops. I think perhaps that we should exit this room immediately. There is nothing left to be learned here, or at least not at this moment. This room is dark. Not just dark to the eyes, but to the soul. As soon as I entered this house, I could feel the evil that permeated its walls. I can't stand being in this room any longer. I beg you all, let us leave it immediately. Yes, madam, I do agree with you. I will have a cold dinner prepared for us in the dining room presently, if it pleases everyone. Who can eat at a time like this? To be honest, the suggestion pleased none of us, for none of us were hungry. There isn't a single person on Earth, I suspect, who can see a dead body and then have an appetite for cold cuts. I know, right? Whoops. There is something about seeing a fellow human knocked low by death that reminds you of your own mortality, and it's a startling reminder. The whole gang is here. We each looked from one another as we picked at the dinner that Charlotta had set before us. Cold ham and turkey, along with vegetables and a fruit salad. It was a nice effort on her part, and I tried to eat in order to show her that I appreciated it, but even she hadn't taken a single bite of the meal. For most of the meal, we were all silent in our own contemplations. We went on like this for some time until suddenly Lord Violet said the one thing that none of us wanted to say. So, I'm just going to address the elephant in the room. I'm sure we're all thinking it anyway. Oh my gosh, Laura! Charcuterie spread about to be insane. Casey, suspects assemble. But at this table sits a murderer. Oh. We all know it. There is no one else in this house. It had to be one of us. There is no other way to look at it. Someone was out to kill the mistress of this house. I didn't know this Helena personally, and I am sad to say that now I never will, but no one deserves to be murdered in their own home. Charcuterie sounds really good right now. Oh my gosh, Laura. And as I have just moved into the neighborhood myself, I don't quite like the idea of a murderer looking about. Who's to say that you're not the murderer, Lord Violet? Yes, and who put you in charge anyway? We barely know who you are. I assure you, I do not wish to be in charge. I simply found the need to start a conversation that will hopefully lead us all to the truth. And justice for the deceased. I'm so into this right now. It reminds me of a Choose Your Own Adventure game. It is like that, yeah. So, how do we begin? I suppose it would help if anyone saw anything strange happening around the chateau recently. Did anything out of the ordinary happen? You mean besides the untimely death of Lord Montague? Ah, yes. I did hear something about that in town the other day. How very unfortunate. We shall have to keep that in mind. It could have something to do with the murder. But I mean besides that. Here, I was faced with a choice. I had noticed something strange yesterday that involved Madame Esme, but to be frank, her powers frightened me a little bit. I decided that I should be kind and gently explain to everyone what I knew about Esme. Be bold and make an accusation against Esme. Let's be kind, because if we're in the room with a murderer, we don't want to piss them off. Well, even though today was the first time that I've personally met Madame Esme, I have heard her talking. As I've heard her talking this evening, I realized that I've heard her voice before. Yesterday afternoon, I heard a knock at the door. I was in the parlor, so when Helena called out from the hall that she would see to the door, I didn't bother to get up. Besides, it was Helena's house and none of my business. I overheard two voices, Helena's and a stranger's. It wasn't until just now that I realized I now know who that stranger's voice was. It was Madame Esme. She was here yesterday visiting Helena. She went inside with Helena, and they must have departed to another portion of the house because I could no longer hear their voices. When they emerged about half an hour later, they were fighting with their voices raised in a loud argument. When I found Helena later, she was a bit agitated, but seemed mostly back to normal. I asked her if anything was the matter, but she wouldn't say, and she simply brushed me off. So I was wondering, Esme, if you have any information that you can add to this? Well, normally I wouldn't even answer such a question since it is my own private business. But seeing that Helena has died, I will speak. I do not wish to bring suspicion upon myself. Yes, it is true. The voice you heard yesterday was mine. I had come to the chateau as I often do, to tell Helena's fortune. I've been coming for a while, ever since I realized that she was interested in my arts. I gave her her fortune, but she was not pleased with it. I told her that a dreadful danger was coming upon her household. She argued that losing her father was the most dreadful thing she could think of, so surely nothing worse could come upon her. I didn't say so then, but she didn't realize that her own life was in danger. And to be completely honest, I didn't even think that the danger would lead to her own death. But things got heated as I tried to talk some sense into her, telling her to be aware of her surroundings and those closest to her. She wouldn't listen, so I took my leave of the mansion. I wouldn't have even come back today if I hadn't gotten caught on the Montague side of the river and become stranded when the rain came. Yet, even with my prediction, I never expected to find Helena as we found her tonight. So, you weren't angry at Helena and seeking revenge for something she said to you? No, of course not. Helena was a regular customer and had become a friend to me as well. Even if she didn't like one of my readings, it certainly didn't mean that I killed her. It wouldn't be the first time that a client didn't like what was in his or her future, but I am merely the messenger. I never take it personally. So, if you never take it personally, why did I hear you raise your voice? Well, okay, maybe I did take it a little personally. She's always trusted me before, so I was injured that she suddenly didn't believe me. She was telling me to get out of the house, and I didn't appreciate such treatment, so I may have raised my voice a little. But I assure you, it had nothing to do with Helena's demise today. Thank you for explaining it so fully, madam. I think I need to sit down now. Do you have something you would like to share, miss? I don't see why Lady Strawberry should be the one doing the questioning when she is a relative stranger here. I was shocked at Charlotta's tone. She seemed to notice right away that she had spoken too harshly and tried to make up for it. What I mean to say is, I know Madame Esme. She is local to the village, like myself. I mean no disrespect, but I am more likely to believe the word of someone I know and have seen before than someone I have only just been introduced to. Do you have reason to suspect anyone of suspicious activity, Miss Charlotta? Do I have permission to speak freely? In the light of this sudden murder, I would say that any and all information that anyone has to give should be revealed immediately. Well, in that light, I suppose I will voice my concerns. I find it strange that I have worked here for just about 2 years, and in that time, Lady Strawberry has never once come to visit her cousin. I've been busy. As a child, I practically lived here. But as a grown woman, I have my obligations. I understand that. But I do find it unusual that you should show up only now. That I show up only now when Helena has requested me? Oh, yes, but don't you see, that's the perfect cover. Play the role of the devoted cousin, come to comfort Helena, yet all the time simply looking to live off her hospitality a little longer. You said for yourself that you practically lived here as a child, and I think we all know that you were a penniless orphan. I suspect that your fortunes have not changed much. While my fortunes, as you put it, are none of your business, I will admit that yes, I have never risen in wealth. I earn my bread as much as the next person, which is difficult to do when you bear a title. Everyone thinks that if you have a title, you have money. In my case, this has never been true. But what is it, Charlotta, that you are accusing me of? I'm not accusing you exactly, madam. But I did want to point out that if anyone was to benefit from Helena's death, it stands to reason that it would be you. I know that Mr. Montague didn't believe in banks or wills exactly, but his money passed to Helena when he passed. Now that she's gone, I would assume the fortune goes to the next living relative. You. You would think that I would kill my closest cousin, practically my sister, for her fortune? It is not for me to say. I simply wanted to point out that you are the most likely suspect. You are the only Montague relative present here tonight. And you have always relied on them for support. Madame Esme may tell a joke, but she'd never tell a lie. Hashtag trust no one. Calling her broke, Charlotta girl. Oh my gosh, Laura, I am living for your commentary. What better support could you have than if they were both gone and the money passed into your hands? Goodness gracious. Why, I. Lady Strawberry. As you have rendered the lady quite speechless, I would like to take a moment to shift the focus a bit. As much as I agree with Charlotta that it does make sense for a close family member to have killed Helena, I don't think it's that simple. Oh, what do you propose, madam? Charlotta is bringing all the suspicions onto herself. Yeah, seriously. As you know, my caravan is currently camped close by. I need crackers. Hold on. And as much as it pains me to admit it, for fear of casting any suspicions on myself, Diana was right. I was on the property last night. I did stop by to visit Helena, as Diana already pointed out. After I left the mansion, I made my way through the woods back to the caravan. On my way, I realized that I was not alone. There was someone else in the forest. I hid behind the trunk of a large tree, hoping not to be noticed. That was when I saw a man. He had his back to me, so I couldn't see his face, but he was looking intently around him. Sometimes he overturned a rock or dug a little bit in the ground with a small spade he was carrying. He was clearly looking for something. At one point, he pulled out a ripped piece of paper and paused to read it. He studied it carefully, but whatever was written on the paper seemed to upset him. He practically growled as he slammed his fist against a tree in frustration. I watched for a few more minutes, and as in a rage, he tore up the brush around him, ripping at low-hanging branches and shouting things that I couldn't quite hear. At that point, I thought I saw him toss the paper down to the ground angrily, but I didn't stick around to check. His anger frightened me, and I wasn't about to let him know I was there. I'm like hunched up today. I never saw his face clearly, but I think I know now who he was. He was wearing a cape that night. Black cape. A cape very similar to the one that our Lord Violet is sporting right now. Well, you see. Just as I suspected, it was him. What were you doing out there? So close to the Montague property. In fact, I think you were on Montague property. Well, you see, I'm new to the neighborhood. I've been getting the lay of the land for the last several days. I feel as the lord of a manor, I must do all I can to scour every bit of my land and learn all its secrets. I do apologize, however, if I was encroaching on Montague land. I had no idea where my land ended and my neighbors began. But what were you doing? You were overturning rocks and slamming your angry fist against tree trunks. Theory Video said innocent people will act suspiciously too in murder mysteries. That's very true, because you don't want to be the one that suspicion is cast on, I'm sure, so that probably makes you act pretty weird. I was lost. So I was simply trying to figure out where I was by analyzing the moss on the trees. You know how they say moss only grows on the north side of a tree? I was looking to orient myself north by looking at the moss. But you know what? What? Moss grows on everything out here! So I was hopelessly lost and frustrated because of it. That was why you saw me throw my very immature fit. I am ashamed that anyone was there to witness it. So that's the story you're sticking with, huh? It is, in fact, yes. I could tell at this point that Lord Violet was quite disturbed in his mind, but I thought it was for more than being accused by Madame Esme. I had a decision to make. Should I ask him if he had anything on his mind? Simply mind my own business. It's clear that he is a dangerous man prone to fits of rage. I don't want to be the reason he lashes out in anger. No, let's talk to him. Lord Violet, you seem as if you have something that is on your mind. Since we're all spouting off theories, do you have something you'd like to share? Who, me? Yes. Actually, I do. But it's not really a theory. Just more of an observation. Please, go ahead. Well then, alright. I know that Madame Esme finds me to be suspicious because she's seen me nearby, but I live here in this neighborhood. I have taken up residence. Some could argue that so has Madame Esme, but she has done so illegally by squatting with her caravan on the nearby fields. Excuse me? But gypsies have long been revered for their great powers, and anyone with a single bit of sense in his head gladly welcomes the gypsies wherever they go. To welcome a gypsy caravan onto your land brings good luck. That very well may be, but the point I am making is this. Madame Esme has her own reasons for being on the nearby land. Lady Diana was invited here, as was Sir Dorian. I live right here in this neighborhood, so I am always nearby. But Charlotta, the Montague's maid, where is she from? Is she a live-in maid, or does she come and go? You speak of me, sir, as if I am not in the room. I do apologize. Miss Charlotta, do you live here at the mansion? I do indeed, sir. So, as you can see, I also belong here. Ah, yes. Am I correct in assuming that you came here to work because you need the money? Well, that's hardly a polite question, sir. I'm afraid that you'll have to forgive my lack of propriety in the situation, but there has been a death in this house tonight, an unnatural death. And I'm determined, as I hope all of you are, to discover the truth. So if my questions verge on the rude, I must ask you to forgive me and do your best to answer. For I know we all want this matter cleared up, and quickly. Well then. Yes, I work here because I need the money. Most working individuals do, you know. We can't all be ladies and gentlemen. Why, yes, of course, my dear. Since moving into the neighborhood, I must confess, I did a bit of research about my neighbors. I like to know who I'm surrounding myself with. So I asked around about those who lived in the big house on top of the hill. I was informed of the Montagues, of course. This was before the demise of Lord Montague. But I was also told of some of the servants that the Montagues have employed over the years. The most recent servant, and surprisingly the only servant, was a young Miss Charlotta. The locals didn't have much to say about her, but they told me enough. And what did they say, sir? They said she came from a desperately poor family. Things got worse when her father died a few years ago. Sir, I would prefer it if you didn't dig into the painful parts of my past. Since then, it's been up to the mother of the family to care for them, but she is getting up in years and her health isn't as good as it once was. So young Charlotta has taken up the burden of caring for her mother and younger siblings. Where are you going with this, Lord Violet? It sounds to me that Charlotta is a very upstanding young woman who is trying to care for her family. And being poor isn't a crime, you know. Oh yes, I quite agree with you there. On the surface, it does appear that Charlotta is the most virtuous of us all. But we have our doubts, don't we? But take a look at the situation in which she was raised. Her family could barely put food on the table even when her father was alive, may he rest in peace. Once he was gone, things got much worse for them. From what I've heard, there were times... Goodness. I keep choking myself up. Blah. Okay. Man, I'm getting what Carter's got. These characters are snarky. Yeah. Why are we talking about Meryl Streep? Woo! I think I'm alive. Whoa! Okay. Not me just literally, like, choking on live stream. Okay. It's my own fault. I've been eating cinnamon crackers. Okay, here we go. Alright, from what I've heard, there were times when they were forced to beg for their dinner. I believe that the same desperation to provide for her family is also in Charlotta, as it was in her father. Who knows what lengths she would go to? All I'm saying is this. If I were a betting man, and I was to put money on the person most likely to commit a crime for money, I would put my money on the poorest person in the room. But I would get nothing from killing Helena. I'm not so sure about that. As I learned in my research of the neighbors, Lord Montague didn't believe in banks, and kept his money hidden somewhere here in the house. With both of the Montagues gone, Charlotta could have easily made off with the money. Oh yes, and of course I would kill Helena when she's surrounded by her friends. How stupid do you think I am? I must say, old chap, I have to agree with the maid in this situation. Your story seems a bit far-fetched. She's a humble maid, working for her bread, doing the decent thing to care for her family. Every bit of your argument is constructed from guesses and conjectures. Conjectures. That's better. I don't believe your story is anything more than a dark fairy tale that you cooked up in your head. Well, we'll just have to wait and see then, won't we? I suppose that we will. Now I'm afraid that it is my turn to say my little piece. You guys both got Treasure in the Royal Tower codes. Good for you. I believe that I have the correct answer to this little mystery of ours. After hearing what Charlotta had to say a little bit ago, I've been doing some thinking. And I have to admit that I see some logic in what she has to say. When Lord Montague, or Monty as his relatives called him, passed away, Helena automatically inherited all of her father's wealth. It's still there. Okay. Oh, that's better. Okay. However, what if Helena was to die? Who would inherit after her? Why, the next closest living relative, of course. And as we all know, that is Lady Diana Strawberry. Come back here a second, Lady Strawberry. I'm not quite finished yet. Oh, Sir Grayson, not you too. First Charlotta, now you. I'm sorry, dear lady, but I must speak my mind. As much as I hate to slander the reputation of such a dear lady as yourself, I'm afraid that it must be said. The most likely culprit would be you, Lady Diana, as you are the next in line to inherit the Montague fortune. I am surprised by this allegation. Honestly, Helena's death came as such a shock to me that I hadn't even realized I might be the next in line for the Montague fortune. I decided to throw a fit and storm out of the room, deny adamantly that I had anything to do with Helena's death, explain calmly that I hadn't even realized the fortune would pass with me. Lord Grayson Dorian, I'm surprised at you. There is no way that I could have done such a thing to my own cousin. Not even for all the money in the world. I may be an orphan. I may have very little money to my name. I may even have to work for my keep, but I will tell you one thing that I am not. I am not a killer. Helena may have died by the hand of someone in this house tonight, but it certainly wasn't me. I am very sorry to have offended you, lady. But at this point, we must hold nothing back. If we are ever to find Helena's killer, we must explore every avenue. Look into every possible theory. Yes, I suppose you're right. But please excuse me for a moment. This has all got me quite worked up. Chapter 3. Digging deeper. Have fun, Casey. I slipped away for a little bit of quiet thinking. Helena was dead, and I seemed to be everyone's prime suspect. I knew that I needed to find some way to prove my innocence. My first thought was to go back to the scene of the crime. I know that they always say the culprit goes back to the scene of the crime, but in this case I was determined to find something that incriminated the true murderer. Yet I hesitated at Helena's door, candle in hand, unsure if I really wanted to re-enter the dark room. My skin felt creepy-crawly just at the thought of being in the same room with a dead body, even of a beloved relative. When I finally worked up the gumption to go into the bedroom, I stood around for a few minutes, not really sure what I was looking for. Then, in the candlelight, I saw it on the floor by the bed. I stooped to pick up the object and examine it. It was a small flower-shaped bead. I felt I had seen something like it before, but I wasn't sure where. I looked around Helena's dressing table to see if any of her necklaces were missing a bead, but nothing looked out of place. Still unsure of how this bead could help me, I put it in my pocket just in case it should come in handy later. I have a question. So, where is she hiding pockets? But I could no longer stand being alone in the room with Helena's lifeless form. So quickly I left the room. Still not quite ready to rejoin the others in the dining room, I decided to go somewhere and think by myself for a while. Somewhere where there weren't any bodies lying about. I found myself drawn to the library. Oh, that's really pretty. The large, beautiful library that I had always loved as a child. There were so many memories there. Rainy days had been spent in that room, whiling away the hours with Uncle Monty as he read stories to me. How I wished I could have those days back. The library felt strangely odd and eerily silent without him. In fact, the only thing I could hear was the sound of the storm outside. I seated myself in a cozy chair, hoping it would somehow encourage my brain cells to think more clearly about this mystery. In some way, I suppose that it did, for on my elbow on the side of the table, I noticed an old newspaper. Oops, I keep doing that. There is no way that dress has pockets. Witchcraft. Maybe it's like Nancy and Mary Poppins, or Hidden Pockets or something. I have no idea. I know. It was dated back a few months ago and turned to the gossip column. I scanned the articles briefly, looking for anything that stood out. Then I noticed that one article had been lightly circled in pencil. It said, Rumor has it that the opulent lifestyle of one of France's most well-known families is about to change. The Dorians are in dire straits after a bad investment has left them practically selling off furniture to pay back debts. The dashing oldest son, Lord Grayson, has left the country for England. Could he be hoping to better his fortunes there, or simply escape the family shame? As much as I'd like to say that this news came as a shock, I have to admit that it wasn't. I knew that I had heard Grayson's name before, probably in tabloids such as this one. The news of his family loss of fortune had circulated all over Europe, so finally, I understood why the name Dorian rang a bell. As it turned out, Grayson was no better than me, a man with a title but no fortune. I sat for perhaps another moment or two in deep contemplation before the thought struck me. Grayson was penniless according to the paper. He also had left his home country for no apparent reason. Was he really on the prowl to secure some sort of fortune for himself and his family? Was that why he was here? I knew immediately that I had to talk to him about it. I stood up, grabbed the newspaper, and hurried downstairs to the dining room. Wait, hang on. Let's appreciate this for a moment. She stood up. So cute. I love it. But when it arrived, I was empty. No, when I arrived, it was empty. My gosh. I remember Abigail being super proud when she figured out how to code that into the game where, she could, make them go, boop. It was really fun. Even the food had been cleared away. I started to roam the expansive mansion looking for the others. Finally, I located them in the parlor where they had apparently retired after dinner. Ah, Lady Strawberry, you have returned to us. I trust that you find yourself refreshed. I am, thank you. But I return with a burning question. Can you tell me more about this article in the newspaper? It refers to your family and yourself, does it not? Ugh, this old tabloid. Yes, I had heard that this story was circulating here. It is quite true, even if it isn't a cheap tabloid such as this one. Actually, the article is kinder than we deserve. It says my family lost our wealth because of bad investments. That is somewhat true, but my father is a betting man. He lost most of his fortune due to his gambling addiction and inability to pay back his debts. After our fortune was squandered, I had no choice but to strike out on my own and make my own way in the world. At this point, I was faced with a choice. Should I accept his answer and believe that his motives are pure? Ask him further about his motives. Are you really just trying to make your way in the world? Of course, after the loss of my family fortune and the shame that came with it, I had very little reason to remain in my home country. So you say, but what if you had a different motive? Such as you were here searching for a new fortune? Someone else's fortune? What are you suggesting, Lady Diana? I don't know. Some people look for money in easy ways, like marrying into money, committing fraud, or killing for money. I don't even know where to begin with that. You call those easy? Killing for money. I mean, never mind. But easy or not, you're dead wrong, Strawberry. Dead wrong. No pun intended, of course. Helena was a dear friend, and I cared for her as such. Besides, she contacted me, not the other way around. If I had been after her money, don't you think that I would have tried a little harder before this evening to obtain her fortune? It seems like a messy and poorly thought out business to me. Perhaps it is. But I had to ask. I understand. So for the moment, I will forget that you made such an obvious accusation about me. And we can go back to being friends. Wait, hold on. We weren't friends because he literally just finished accusing her. But be careful in future what you say to me. For next time, I might not be so forgiving. Ooh, dark. Sir, I believe that you have left out some vital pieces of information. I am a man of the world. Before settling down in this neighborhood, I did some traveling. Spent a little time in France, in fact, very recently. I must say, Grayson, that the family name of Dorian is all over the country. So I heard some of your story. Wait. There was one man in particular who swindled your father out of every penny he owed. His name was Sir Frederick. A dastardly man by all accounts, I must say. So you took it into your head that he was to avenge your family's honor? You confronted Frederick and challenged him to a duel. Well, duel that he did more than you expected. Things got out of hand. The duel turned into a fight. A bloody fight. Sir Frederick nearly lost his life. I stopped the war from killing him, of course, but... Stop. For the love of God, stop. I don't want to hear the story echo through the me. I know the entire tale. Please, finish it. I believe that it is the right to the end. Music's too loud again, man. Oh, too scary. Fine. Yes, I nearly killed that scum Frederick. If I had, there isn't a jury in the world who would have taken his side. He had already been in hot water for a number of similar crimes. So I have no doubt that everyone would have come to see it my way. Unfortunately, though, Sir Frederick did not die. I did not have the heart to finish the job. He survived, and he survived to get vengeance against the entire Dorian family. He made our lives a living hell after that. Although badly injured, it didn't stop him from spreading the most horrible rumors about me, my family, and everyone we loved. We tried to talk to him. We tried to restore our good name, since our family fortune was at this point irretrievable. But he was unrelenting. Finally, I had enough. I left France and never looked back. I was wandering around, just a stranger in an unknown land, unsure of where to go, when I heard from Helena. Her letter was a guiding light, giving me the first real piece of hope in so long. She was the only person left who cared for me. So you say. Yet we've just learned that you nearly killed a man very recently. That seems to prove that you were capable of murder. But I didn't kill that man. Oh, I know. At the very last second you pulled back, you restrained yourself. But who's to say that next time someone stood in the way of something you wanted, say, a large fortune, that you no longer felt you needed to hold yourself back? Especially if that person was a weak, vulnerable female with a large fortune. Sir, enough! Again, I must ask you to stop. As I've already told you, I cared deeply for Helena. I never would have harmed her. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've had enough of this conversation for the moment. Well then. Come back here a moment, Lord Violet. He's like, yes. Working, you got the chickens inside and the pregnant catto set up with a safe space tonight. You can focus more. Oh, good. Glad you're taking care of the pregnant kitty. Now look at what you've done. You've harassed poor Sir Grayson until he can hardly handle it any longer. Please excuse my hasty words, but I've had enough. Lord Violet, you act so high and mighty as if you've never done anything wrong in your life. Who are you to accuse any of us? It's not as if you've never had anything questionable in your past. And what do you mean by that, Miss Charlotta? Only that while you act as if you have so much dirt as you have on Sir Grayson, I have a little bit on you. Do you now? And what do you have? Let me get a comfortable seat over here. Boom! Yes, that's better. I love when they go. Right. Boom! Alright. Okay, now I'm ready. Please share. Ah, yes, a gentleman of much levity. That's what you are. Do you use humor to mask your fear, Lord Violet? Fear? I've got none to speak of, except perhaps of an unidentified murderer running around this big old mansion. I won't lie, that does make me a little jumpy. I think it makes us all feel that way, Lord Violet. But before we go any further, I feel I must reveal what we know. Yesterday, between rain showers, I took advantage of the few minutes of reprieve to weed the rapidly overgrown gardens. Just boops into the chair. I know! Helena always liked, God rest her soul, for me to do a bit of weeding every day, so that the plants didn't get choked by the grass. While I was out there, I spotted something in the mud of the garden. It was barely recognizable, but it looked like a piece of paper. Ah, piece of paper. So incriminating. Well, it could be. Here, I have it with me still. It reads, Violet, as your parents might have told you, I once worked at Chateau de Rouge. It was almost a lifetime ago. What you probably didn't know is that I was wrongfully fired. My termination was causeless, and I've always resented the Montagues for their treatment of me. And that's all it says. The other half is ripped off and missing. Ah yes, I wonder where that letter went. Thank you for returning it to me. Half of it, anyway. Do you have anything to say for yourself? About what? My personal correspondence? No, the contents of that letter. I see nothing to explain. You simply found a letter I've been missing. Ugh, I suppose I shall have to speak quite plainly then. Who is your letter from? A distant relative who used to work here. I thought that was pretty clear from the letter itself. Of course, but few people carry vindictive letters from their distant relatives on their person, and then lose them in the gardens of houses they do not own. True enough. So you simply refuse to explain yourself? Not entirely. There isn't anything to tell. I had a great uncle who once worked here as a servant. I don't know much of his termination, but the Montagues let him go, just as the letter said. And that's it? You don't carry any decades-old vendetta that you're bent on carrying out for your humiliated ancestor? No, of course not. How silly. I barely knew my great-uncle. What do I care about his past grievances? I already admitted to a little bit of unintentional trespassing. I suppose that I dropped the letter then. And that's all you'll admit? What else would you have me say? That I had a burning desire to avenge my ancestor because of a family grievance? And I deliberately moved here with the bloodlust to kill all living Montagues? Ha ha! How preposterous that all sounds, don't you think? Perhaps. But I don't know. I don't know who to believe tonight. But I do. And I believe Miss Charlotta, for I have found the other half of Violet's letter. What? Just now? While you were in the restroom? Huh? No, I wasn't in the... Ugh, never mind. No, I found this piece of paper yesterday when I had taken a walk between rain showers. Of course, the weather has been beastly this week, so I was feeling rather cooped up in the house. The first chance I got to escape its walls, I went for a walk in the woods. That was when I spotted something small and crumpled caught up against some sharp branches. It was a torn piece of paper. And from catching the tail end of what Charlotta was saying, I believe that I have the other half of her letter. Listening around the corner, eh? As I was saying, I found this piece of paper outside, and I believe that it is the second half of the letter that Charlotta found. It reads... Despite my hatred of the family, I did not have time to remove my greatest treasure from the manor before they threw me out. If you're reading this letter, then it means that I have passed on and you are the sole heir to the Violet fortune. Ooh. Go to Chateau de Rouge and discover the treasure which is hidden in the... And that's all it says. So clearly, even with my half and Charlotta's half, we are still missing part of the letter. So we have a third and a third, perhaps? Perhaps you still have it, Lord Violet. I wish I could help you, but that letter reached me like that, with the second page missing. Oh, never mind. I accidentally tore the first page in half myself, which is what you two are hold in your hands. But there never was a second page, that I know of anyway. If there was, it's lost now. So what exactly are you concerned about? The letter speaks of your ancestor having left his greatest treasure in Chateau de Rouge. To me, that seems like that might be a good explanation for why you've been lurking around on the grounds so much. It would seem that way. So you admit that you've been searching for a treasure? I do. Oh, well, that was easy. Of course, I have nothing to hide. Now that it's out, I admit I had bought the house next door with the hopes of being able to search for the treasure. Since I was unsure whether my great-uncle hid his so-called treasure in the house or on the grounds, I started with the grounds. I was hoping to eventually become friends with Helena so that I could ask her if I could search the house. But as we all know, that didn't exactly go as planned. Because you killed her? I didn't kill her. I was merely searching the grounds, looking for a place where perhaps my great-uncle hid the treasure, and working up the nerve to go to the house, introduce myself so that I could ask to go search inside, too. So, have you searched the house now that you've been here? You tell me. I've clearly been in the presence of either yourself, or Lady Diana, or Miss Charlotta, or Madame Esme. The entire time that I've been here tonight. When would I have found the chance to abscond? No, I suppose not. But still, you could have looked around at some point. If I had found my treasure, do you think I'd still be here? None of us can leave. The water is too high around the chateau. But I only live nearby. I could easily just cut through the woods, ford the stream, and get hopelessly lost again. Well, yes, that is also a possibility. And we're right back where we started. Official Nancy Drew Games Instagram liked your story? That's so cool. With you being my prime suspect. Well, ever since it was revealed that your family name has fallen from grace, you really have dropped the gracious monarch act, haven't you? Now you're just making accusations all over the place. There isn't much propriety to be kept when someone's dearest friend lays upstairs dead. Boys, no more fighting. I say, my head is absolutely aching from all your bickering. And I need my mind to be clear to steer us through this dark, dark night. Let your quarrel be settled for the moment. And I suppose that you have the answer to everything? The answer? Why, no. At least, not yet, anyway. What I do have is a thought. A very good thought. Let me remember back to the moments. As you know, I frequently came to the chateau to I frequently came here to read Helena's fortunes, so I got to know her and the household a bit. During one of my visits, I happened to see a bit of garbage that was laying beside the trash. I picked it up and looked at it. It was a pay stub of sorts, made out to our dear Miss Charlotta here. I suppose that it had been her payday and she had taken the cash but discarded the stub. I was just about to put it in the trash where it belonged when I happened to catch sight of her payment amount. Of course I didn't mean to snoop, but a girl does have eyes, you know. I couldn't help to notice that although Charlotta was earning what most might call a living wage, even a generous living wage, it wasn't quite enough to support an entire family. Which we all know is what she does. Madam, I resent the fact that you see fit to air my wages in public like this. I would never say the amount. And I should be sorry that I noticed your pay stub at all. But now I can't help but wonder if you may have killed your employer in a fit of rage because she never saw fit to pay you what you actually needed to support your family. Why, I have never heard the like. Madam, I believe that you are out of line. Miss Charlotta, I don't believe that any of us could be more out of line, as you put it, than the murderer here tonight. So, we will all have to forgive each other our trespasses if we want to solve this crime and get justice for Helena. But I suppose you are right. Then, to answer your question, no, I did not kill my employer in a fit of finance-induced rage. There. Are you happy now? Happy? No. Satisfied for the moment? Perhaps. Chapter 4. Evident Evidence. Alright, I am going to take a quick break and be back in just a moment. I will see you guys very shortly. Why does this look so wonky? Has it been looking wonky this whole time? Why do people not tell me these things? That's how I wanted it to look. Wait. There we go. I love this. Ah, never mind. I had the game covering. Anyway, hi guys, I'm back. Alright. Abigail, are you still here and paying attention? On my phone, so I didn't notice anything wonky. Oh, awesome. Good, good, good. Alright. So we just started chapter 4. And I'm trying to find out... Ah, yes, Abigail is here and watching. Abigail, how many chapters are in this game? I'm making stuff for my next game. Ooh! I can't wait to talk to you about your next game tomorrow. Gonna be... not tomorrow. Saturday. Good question. Okay, well I just started chapter 4. I'm just trying to decide how much longer I want to continue playing, or if I'm at like a really good like midpoint at some point that I should stop and then continue next week. I don't know. Abigail knows the game best, so if you have any opinion, Abigail, on if there's a midpoint or if I should just do the whole thing, let me know. Oh, you're gonna go look. Okay, well, in the meanwhile, I'm going to play. I'm tired of all these accusations. Whoops, I went so fast. All we've been doing here tonight is sitting around accusing each other of a crime we still know so little about. What do you propose we do then? Well, when we first found Helena upstairs and unresponsive, our first reaction was to call the police. A very natural reaction, I might say. I would do the same. However, the storm made calling the police or heading out to find an officer completely impossible. After that, all we wanted to do was get out of the room and think about it. None of us wanted to stay in there any longer than we had to. However, we now know that it will be hours yet, possibly even a day or more, until any of us can get out to visit the police in town, or before the phone lines are repaired. Leaving the crime scene as it is seems foolish to me. I don't propose that we mess around too much, but I think we'd be remiss if we didn't comb through the crime scene thoroughly. What do you think we'll find? Well, last time we were in there, Lady Strawberry did observe that Helena had a rather sizable bump on her head, which suggests blunt force trauma. Who knows what else we may discover if we're actually looking. I see your meaning, sir, and I concur. Let us search the bedroom. So we went upstairs to search the room we had all been dreading. Well, almost all of us. I was starting to feel guilty that I had already done my own investigation in the room. I began to wonder, should I tell them about what I found? I decided that I'd think about it, depending upon if anyone else found anything of interest in there. So I decided to follow the others who were already in Helena's room. When we got in the room, it was darker than I had remembered it being even before. There are 6 chapters total, not counting the other ending. Oh, then I'm actually pretty close to the end then. Okay. I have been reading really fast. When we got into the room, I already read that one. I realized that I hadn't looked at a clock in hours. I had no idea of even what time it even was. You're a little more than halfway done. Cool. It could be midnight by now or beyond. I was not tired, at least I was not sleepy, but I was growing weary. Weary in soul and spirit mostly, but also a little weary in body. However, even if I had been sleepy enough to want to lay down for a bit, I knew I would never sleep. Not on a night like this one. The voices of my companions broke me from my reverie. It is hard to see anything in this darkness. We should have brought up more candles with us. Deanna, would you be good enough to bring yours a little closer? I want to examine Helena a little bit more. I hardly got a good look at her last time. Of course, Madame Esme. Yes, that is a bit better. What is this? What is what, madam? This bit of something here on Helena's sleeve. It looks like wax. Red wax. Like from the candle you have been carrying around. What? No, I mean, it is possible that some wax may have dripped on her just now as I've been leaning over the body, but this wax is dry, Lady Diana. This wax is old. What are you insinuating, madam? Just what you think that I am. I'm insinuating that we have all been carrying around candles tonight because of the blackout. Yet, whenever any of us have picked up a candle, it has been one of the white ones that are scattered around the house. Yet you are the only one carrying a red candle. The wax can only be from you. Oh, how dare you! I actually couldn't find the red candle when the blackout happened. I had to pick up a white candle. I found the red one in Helena's room when I found her body. A likely story. That's what anyone would claim if they were guilty. This red wax on the body is too big of a clue to ignore. Morgan, you got the blank quote. Congrats, you found my Easter egg. Drink to that. And besides, didn't someone point out earlier that the bump on Helena's head indicates that she died from being struck with a heavy object? That solid silver candlestick holder that Diana has been carrying looks like it could be heavy enough to bludgeon, if one was so inclined, of course. Are you, Lady Diana, so inclined? No, of course not. I had nothing to do with her death. Then how did the red candle wax get on Helena's clothing? A number of ways. Anyone who's been in the house the last several days can vouch that I've carried this candle around during each of the previous blackouts. Helena could have picked up the candle on her own in that amount of time and dripped the wax onto herself. Or perhaps I did drip it on her earlier today, but while she was alive. Besides, it would be rather difficult to knock someone over the head with a candle holder that also contains a lit candle. Perhaps you have a point there. But even so, you have to admit that it does look bad for you. Well, yes, I'll give you that. It does look bad, but that doesn't make it true. No, I suppose that it doesn't mean that it is, but it does paint you in a rather bad light, I am afraid. So, random question. What is it, Lord Violet? Madam, before I was seen outside the mansion tonight, I happened to notice a very loaded cart parked out front. It was filled with weeds of some sort. Or herbs. Is the cart yours? What are you saying what about, Joe? Why, yes, I sell my wares from it. What sort of wares? Well, mostly herbs. I've been out tonight looking to restock my store. And did you find any? Oh, yes, it was a bountiful trip, actually. I replenished most of my herb jars. Why? Because just here, next to Helena's body on the bed, is what appears to be... wolfsbane? Wolfsbane? Where have I heard of that herb before? Oh, wait. Madam, when you first arrived tonight, you told us that you had just found a rich source of wolfsbane before the rain set in, and you were forced to seek shelter. So, what of it? Well, to me, it sounds like the enchanting Madame Esme, fresh from the forest surrounding the mansion, with a fistful of wolfsbane in her hands and a vendetta in her heart, approached the chateau under the guise of seeking shelter. Whoops. Then, when left alone during the blackout, she sneaked upstairs, killed Helena over the argument they had had the day before, and then returned back downstairs before anyone knew she was missing. But what she didn't realize was that some of the wolfsbane leaves were still stuck to her skin or clothes, and she left one right at the scene of the crime. No. That is completely wrong and totally impossible. I was in the parlor during the blackout, and in the parlor is where I remained. There is no way I could have killed Helena, and this little leaf proves nothing. I could have easily have dropped that here when we all came upstairs together after Diana found Helena's body. Even so, it's a pretty incriminating clue. It incriminates me in no way. It could have come up on someone's shoe or been blown through the window at some point. In fact, who knows how long it's been here. But isn't wolfsbane kind of rare? You said yourself today how happy you were to find such a rich supply of it. To me, it sounds like you don't come across it very often. Well, you don't. But still. Maybe spending too much. Its appearance here has absolutely nothing to do with me. I believe that our gallant Lord Violet is simply trying to shift attention away from himself by casting such a shadow on our honorable Madame Esme. I'm saving up for the discounts. Yeah, girl. Where are your points looking? Oh, wow. You have many points. Good job. Such a tiny little leaf could hardly be a clue. But if you'll all step over here closer to the window, I believe that you'll see why he's trying to place the blame somewhere else. What? I don't know what you could possibly mean. Just a little closer, sir, and I believe I can make it all clear. And Lady Diana, please bring your so-called murderous candlestick over here too. We're going to need the light. What is it that you want to show us, Sir Grayson? Are you going to push us each out the window one by one and see who can make it? Oh, no, nothing like that, Lord Violet. I already know you can make it in and out of a window. Oh my gosh. For there is your muddy footprint on the windowsill. Oh, what? How could you think it is mine? You are the only person here tonight wearing boots, and boots of that size. I mean, I am wearing boots, but if you'd be so kind as to take off your boot, we could use it to measure the size of the print on the windowsill. I'm not taking off my boots, sir. I am afraid that I simply must have one of them. Preferably the right one, but I'll take the left if that's all you can give me. Fine. Yes, the print is mine, I admit it, but I'll admit it with my boots on. Haha! I knew it! What did I know? Hold on. So you admit that you scaled the wall outside, climbed into Lena's bedroom, and murdered her in cold blood right here in her bed. I did nothing of the sort. If you'll shut your well-bred mouth long enough to let me speak, I'll explain it all to you. Harumph. Very well. Make my day. Make my day. Explain away. Ha, that rhymed a little, didn't it? But never mind, carry on. Listen, you already know that my ancestor left some sort of treasure here. I've been looking for it for a while now. Once I was finished combing the grounds and found nothing at all, I got desperate. I knew that the treasure had to be in the house. I had tried a few times to make friends with the Montagues, but it was a bad time to do so, with Lord Montague having just passed away. I was too late to ask Lord Montague, but Helena was too busy to see me most times I tried. Although she wasn't too busy to meet with her psychic gypsy friend and have her palm read, I might add. But that's beside the point. And as I was saying, I got desperate. I knew that if I could get into the house and just look around a little bit, that I would be able to locate the treasure, so I sneaked inside. I did it once. I did it twice. I did it a dozen times. It was almost too easy, even easier when the family was preoccupied with the passing of Lord Montague, may he rest in peace. I learned the habits of the family, which windows were always unlocked. Jeez. Usually I would scale the wall outside of Helena's room because the ivy on that side of the house and the landing outside the window made it easier. Finally today, between showers when most of the house's occupants were taking advantage of short bursts of sunshine, I sneaked into the house once again by way of Helena's room. Ooh! Abigail sent me some photos of sneak peeks of the next game. Where was I? But I swear to you, she wasn't in here. I don't believe you. You have no proof to back up your story. Proof? You want proof? We've got gobs of proof. Follow me. Should we? I don't think we have much of a choice. He's already gone. In that case, ladies first. Where have you taken us? This level of the house is absolutely disgusting. It's all dusty and old. Ugh. I'm sure in your charmed spoon-in-mouth life, Sir Grayson, that you've never set eyes on an attic before. Well, of course I have. I've just never seen one so disgusting. Watch it, Your Highness. I don't know how to take that. If you're quite finished insulting the lady's housekeeping skills, then I'm sure you'll want to see what I have over here. Is that the treasure? Whoa. How was it even hidden? It's huge! When I came up here, I noticed that the floor creaked differently in this one spot. It seemed hollow. So I pulled up some of the boards and pulled this out of what appeared to be a specially made compartment for the chest. It didn't look like it had been touched in years, possibly decades. Inside the chest, as you can see here, is my great uncle's name, so I know that it is the treasure that he hid when he worked here. But when I was trying to figure out how to get it out of the house, I heard footsteps downstairs. I was afraid of being discovered, so I put the treasure back where I found it and slipped back outside. When Lady Diana spotted me outside earlier, I was trying to figure out how I was going to get back into the house, and more importantly, how I was going to get the treasure out. So what do you think of that, Sir Grayson? I don't know what to say. But this does seem to corroborate your story. At this moment, I began to wonder, should I mention about that bead I found on the floor in Helena's room? I was starting to get worried that it might look bad for me if I told them I found something earlier but didn't tell them. They might think I was hiding evidence or that I had a sinister reason for going back to the scene of the crime alone, namely tampering with evidence. I was just about to speak up and say something when Charlotta interrupted my thoughts. I believe I have something that will break your speechlessness, Sir Grayson. I took the liberty of examining Helena's pockets a few minutes ago, and you touched the body? Not exactly. I simply saw something white sticking out of the top of one of her jacket pockets, so I pulled it out. What is it? It appears to be a love letter. Ooh, I love love letters! Who is it from? Well, let's see. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. Dear Helena, mumbles, think of you every morning, dream of you every evening. Can't wait to see you again and hold you in my arms. With all my love, Grayson. Whoa. You were in love with Helena? You saucy thing, you. You didn't even tell us. Ugh. This day could not get any worse. First, I am humiliated over my family's loss of fortune, and now you know about this too? Hold on. Start over. I can understand being ashamed of your family's fall from grace, but why hide the relationship with the woman you love? It was all Helena's idea. She knew of my family's recent financial issues. And while it didn't bother her in the slightest, she knew that her father would not approve. You see, Lord Montague wanted his only child to marry for wealth as well as a title. And, well, at the moment, I only have one of those. So she wanted to keep our relationship secret until I was back on my feet again and could prove to her father that I was worthy of his daughter's love. But why keep it a secret from the rest of us? I'm sorry, lady, I only met a few hours ago. How silly of me not to tell a room full of strangers about my love life. Oh my, so much sass! I must say, Sir Grayson, you are quickly becoming my favorite here tonight. Well, I suppose I should be flattered. As much as I hate to interrupt this love fest, I still feel like it is strange that no one, especially myself, heard about this love affair. Why are you so upset about it? That your employer was more mysterious than you thought, a woman of many secrets? Or that my love for Helena makes me less of a suspect? I don't know about that. Surely this letter proves to you once and for all that I would never hurt Helena. I wanted to ask for her hand in marriage. To spend the rest of my life with her. I just can't believe that she's gone. Excuse me for a moment. I don't know. He does seem pretty choked up about this. Yes, but still, all is not as it seems. Of this I am sure. At this point, I knew I had to say something about what I had found in Helena's bedroom during my first search. But what do I say? The bead looked so incredibly familiar, but where had I seen it before? Had I seen it on or in the possession of? I think it's Charlotta's. It was a floral bead, right? And she has them in her hair. That was it! It could only be Charlotta. Miss Charlotta, I was wondering, did you lose a hairpin? I have one in my hair. But, yes, I do seem to be missing the second one. I always wear these in pairs. I wonder where the other one went. Why do you ask? I found the bead from your pin on the floor. Oh, too bad it broke off. Oh well, it was just a cheap little thing anyway. Thank you for finding it. You're welcome, but I'm afraid that you'll hardly be thanking me when I tell you where I found it. Oh? I found the bead from your hairpin on the floor in Helena's room, right next to her body. What? But we were just in there, I didn't see it. Well, I have to admit that when I left the dining room earlier, I did spend a few minutes in Helena's room looking for clues on my own. I found it then. Looking for clues, Lady Strawberry? Or planting evidence? Woo! You might need some witch hazel for that burn, Lady Strawberry. I'll go get some. Very funny. Please come back and hear me out. I wasn't tampering with anything. I just wanted to do some investigating on my own. And, well, it paid off. I found the bead from your hair to your hairpin, miss. Can you account for its presence near the body? Yes, perhaps it broke off from your hair in a violent struggle. A struggle with Helena, perhaps. Or maybe she even grabbed it from your head as she was fighting for her life. How dare you! I did nothing of the sort. May I remind you that I work in this house? I dust that room every day. It could have dropped off at any time and I wouldn't have noticed. It could have even been lying there for days. And yet, when I asked you if it was missing, you told me that you always wear these pins in pairs. That's a really dang good point. So logically, when you put in your hairpins this morning, you put them both in, which indicates that you lost this one sometime today. That possibly places you in the room at the time of the murder. You have no proof that I was there. My dear Miss Charlotta, I'm afraid that the pin seems to suggest otherwise. Hi, Casey. It's time for you to choose who you think the murderer is. Oh my gosh. I have a guess. But I'm gonna let those of you who are in the chat have your say as well. Do you guys have a guess of who the murderer is before I choose? Please vote. It is really cool, isn't it, Laura? Brittany thinks it's Charlotta or Esme. Can you guys still hear the music? Because I can barely hear it, but I can still vibe. Anybody else have any guesses before I move on? Yeah, you were gone for a while. All right. I'm gonna guess Miss Charlotta. Chapter 5, The Audible Alibi. It must have been very late when we all went our separate ways. If it hadn't been for the great storm outside, I believe some of the group gathered in that big old house that night would have left and simply never come back. But we were still trapped with no way out. So we all separated to different corners of the house to think, and hopefully not become the next victim of a murderer whose identity was still a mystery. I found myself pacing back and forth in the large front hallway, watching for the rain to stop through the large windows that surrounded me. I thought that if the rain stopped, then perhaps I could somehow slip out and make it to the village in order to bring back a police officer. As I was lost in my own silent thoughts, I was startled by the sound of someone clearing their throat. Oh, Lord Valette. You startled me. You saw one part that made you think that it's possible that Charlotta and Grayson may have some kind of secret relationship, but I don't know. Oh, wow. That's a really interesting theory. Forgive me, Lady Strawberry. I see that you too sought refuge away from the rest of the group. Yes, I think we all went our separate ways for the moment. Although it's kind of hard to really escape each other being that we're stranded here. Yes, I was just thinking that. Yes, Lord Violet. Lady Diana, I have pretty much been on your side since you let me into the house this evening. There is something about you that I just want to believe in and trust. Yet you have hesitations because my cousin lies murdered in the upstairs bedroom and you can't rule me out. Exactly. But in my heart, I want to believe that you are all you say you are. Even so, I have to ask you something. So I sought you out, to ask it of you alone. You may have just been jumping to conclusions. We'll see. Oh. Well then, please, ask your question. As you already know, I have been, hanging around the chateau for a few days now looking for my family treasure. Well, when I was on the grounds yesterday, I happened to see you outside digging. Oh, you saw that, did you? Yes. And I can't help but wonder, what were you doing? Huh, did you think I was digging a grave? Getting ready to put my cousin in the ground? Lady Diana, this is really no time for flippancy. No, of course, you're right. I'm sorry, I think I'm starting to lose my mind after all this. Whoops! It just feels like madness. But no, you're right, I cannot laugh. It is all so terrible. I was outside digging. I didn't see you, but clearly you spotted me. But in my defense, I wasn't trying to hide. Since coming back to this house, I've searched for the happiness I knew here as a child. But it's all gone. It's almost as if it isn't the same place anymore. I feel as if I've lost something. So I was trying to find the last link to the past I could remember, the time capsule that Helena and I buried as kids. I thought that if I could find that again, then I would be reunited with the memories that went with it. Why do people always split up when there's a murderer loose? That's a really good question. I think that I understand you, Lady Diana. I, too, came to this house searching for something very dear to me, a link to my own family in the past. I found mine, and I hope that if we ever make it through this dark night alive, that I can help you find your own link to the past. Thank you, Lord Violet. You are very kind. Well, thank you. Anyway, that was all I wanted to ask of you. Do you think we should... Ah, there you are, Lord Violet. I've been searching the entire house for you. I didn't really go far. I was hoping to speak to you privately, but... Oh. I can go if you like. It's up to you. I have nothing to hide. Not after tonight. I believe that every secret I've ever kept has been exposed. Ugh, well, the feeling is mutual, believe me. But look here, Violet. I know a little more about your story that you haven't mentioned yet. Oh? What did I leave out? I was hoping that you'd admit it for yourself, so that I wouldn't have to, but here we are. Helena was not ignorant of you when you moved into the neighborhood. She, of course, knew that you were a relative of the man her family had employed years ago. Look at Diana, just, hiding back there. Oh my gosh, I have to save that right here. Look at her, she's peeking. Oh my gosh, every time my AC turns on, it gets freezing down here. She informed me that your great-uncle was fired because the Lord Montague at the time, his grandfather, learned that your relative had been having an affair with his wife, Lady Montague. Whoa! Anyway, not only did it harm your great-uncle's reputation, but it marred the family name. No longer could they rise through the ranks of society. Since then, it appears that you, Lord Violet, have done everything in your power to ensure that you not only restore your family's name, but also restore your family's treasure. You've worked hard to make your money, I believe. You've even somehow given yourself a title, although I know not how. You've spent your life trying to restore some dignity to your family. Tonight you even managed to regain the family treasure. All that was left for you to enact your revenge was on the last... All that was left was for you to enact your revenge on the last living Montague. I never hurt Helena. However, I do admit that most of what you say is true. I have indeed tried to place some honor back in the name of Violet. I've earned my fortune instead of having it passed down to me. Some people despise new money, but mine was earned honestly, and I think there's merit in that. So, you're saying that even though you admit to everything I say, none of that led you to murder Helena, the last living relative of the family who ruined your family. That seems hard to believe. Out of everyone here tonight, you have the most reasons to kill her. I don't know about that. You, Sir Grayson, have spent the entire evening vehemently trying to direct suspicion away from yourself into any other channel that leads away from you. I've never seen a man so desperate to appear innocent. You practically reek of desperation. I can smell it from here. Nice deflection from my questions. Strawberry, that's interesting. You know why? Yep. Bye! Nice deflection from my questions. I see what you did there. Perhaps Lady Diana will have more insight for us. Lady Diana? Huh? What's wrong? Oh, sorry. I just noticed the candle I'd been carrying around had some wax that had dripped down the candle holder and dried. So? Did you burn yourself, my lady? No, nothing like that. It's just that there's a hair in the wax. Oh? A long black hair? A hair exactly like Dorian's. Well, that's rather simply explained. As anyone with long hair knows, it just simply gets everywhere. I find them in my clothes, on the floor, in my home. I shed like a golden retriever. Yes, I wear my hair up, but it too is quite lengthy, so I know the trials of long hair. Yet, I have been the only one carrying this candlestick around for most of the night, as you pointed out earlier this evening. But your hair is the one that is stuck in the dried wax. And the fact that it is stuck in dried wax tells me that you had the candlestick at some point this evening, and it had enough time to dry with your hair on it. To me, that points to you using it as the murder weapon. Oh my gosh. It was Dorian, in the bedroom, with the candlestick. Preposterous. It's no more preposterous than you accusing me of avenging a great uncle that I never knew. If anything, your accusations are just conjectures based on hearsay. Lady Diana has found concrete proof that connects you with an object that very well could have been the murder weapon. How dare you? I don't have to stand here and listen to this. I don't trust him. We should probably go follow him. But when the three of us arrived in the parlor, we found ourselves in the scene of a tumultuous verbal fight between Madame Esme and Miss Charlotta. That simply isn't true, and you know it. I know nothing of the sort. All I know is that you've been hanging around here quite a bit over the past few months. Sorry. I choked myself up on that one. Guys, all this talking is so hard on the throat. Okay. I believe that you were hanging around looking for your opportunity to kill the Montagues and take their fortune for yourself. But no one even knew where Monty kept his fortune. How do you know? Because I was in love with him. Okay. Moving on. Did we find the murderer yet? No, but we have a guess. Oh. I did not expect that. What? Listen, Monty, or as you all know him, Lord Montague, was a very kind man. He always allowed my caravan to settle on his land. I got to know him over the last several months since we've been camped here. At first, he was just interested in buying some sort of herbs that I gathered for aches and pains. So I would bring him a new batch every week. Sometimes I would even stick around and read fortunes for Helena, who was interested in my work as a medium. Soon it became an almost daily part of my life here. I started to fall in love with him, and he too was in love with me. In fact, Monty wasn't so old. He married young and had his daughter young, and was widowed young. That's why I found it strange when he died suddenly of a heart attack. I was heartbroken. But more than that, I was suspicious. You think Lord Violet, Laura? Interesting. He had been a relatively healthy man, and healthy men in the prime of their lives don't just drop dead without warning. After losing my dear Monty, I began to wonder what had really happened to him. It was then that I suspected foul play. I knew that if somebody had killed Monty, then it had to be someone in the house, so I narrowed it down to either Helena or Charlotta. I decided that I had to investigate. That was why I came here tonight. I knew that with the heavy rains, there would be a chance that I would get stranded, unable to leave. I figured if I could then figure out if Helena had killed her father or if Charlotta had killed her employer. What I didn't expect was that Helena would be knocked off too. That, of course, narrowed things down for me. But still, I was cautious. I tried to make it look like I wasn't sure who the killer is because I didn't want to throw suspicion onto myself, so I played the game. Wow. That's crazy. And bad. Happy people don't just shoot their husbands vibes. Oh my gosh, yes, best movie. I let you all bicker amongst yourselves and even let you all expose any clues that you might find. Finally, I feel satisfied. You, Miss Charlotta, are the killer of both Lord Montague and Helena Montague. That was my guess! The only thing I don't know is why. Why did you kill them? But surely, madam, you do not think that I... Stop stalling and tell the truth. All the evidence points to you. What evidence? What evidence? I have so much evidence. If a policeman was standing in this room, he would arrest you without a second thought after what he hears all I have against you. First of all, we have the fact that Diana found your hairpin near the body tonight. Even you have to admit that's pretty incriminating. I admit no such thing. Secondly, you were the only one in the house who could have poisoned Monty. Poisoned? Who said anything about poison? No one as of yet. That's what I'm about to reveal. You see, in the course of this evening, I sneaked into the kitchen. I had to make sure that I found the one thing I was certain to find there, and I did. Under the kitchen sink, I found a bottle of rat poison. So what? Lots of country homes have rats. Not this one. I'm allergic to vermin. Both the animal and the human kind. If there had been a rat in this house, I would have had a reaction. Hi. What? Besides that, Monty and his daughter, not to mention yourself, Miss Charlotta, were all clean and tidy people. No rats could have survived in this pristine place. When I sneaked into the kitchen tonight, I found the bottle of poison just as I suspected, and just as I feared, the bottle was empty. There wasn't a trace left of the poison. I know that you poisoned Monty's food at dinner the night he was killed. You were the only one with the opportunity and ability. Oh, just save your breath for a second. I have more. Probably the most convincing piece of evidence of all. Oh, and what is that? Your alibi. My alibi? But I never gave one. No, of course not. You're too smart to have one prepared. And besides, none of us are doctors. We had no way of knowing exactly when Helena was killed. However, I narrowed it down. The most likely time for Helena to be murdered was when all of us were in the house so that there were plenty of other people to pin the crime on. So you waited until you had a pretty full house. Since you had already noticed Violet lurking on the property, and you knew I made my nightly visit, even though Violet and I thought we were just casual visitors, or at least we wanted to make it look that way, you already knew that we would be there. Once we were all in the house, the blackout happened. It seemed innocuous at first, because you've been experiencing blackouts all week with these frequent storms, but I realized that it was a distraction. I didn't realize how well planned that distraction was until I went into the kitchen tonight and noticed two more things. Morgan says, secretly, I am the culprit. Surprise! And what were those things? Well, for starters, the breaker box is in the kitchen. I noticed some tape had been stuck to one of the breaker switches, the one that controls the whole house. Upon further investigation, I noticed that there was some yarn stuck under the kitchen window. The yarn seemed to be coming from the upstairs bedroom, Helena's bedroom. There were two pieces of yarn. One had a bit of tape stuck to it. The other one was tied to the window. Madam, this is nonsense. No, not in the slightest. You had rigged the kitchen so that when you were upstairs about to kill Helena, you could pull the two strings from her bedroom. One pulled the breaker switch, knocking out all the lights, causing confusion downstairs and buying yourself some time. And the other one opened the kitchen window so that it would swing open at the first breath of wind, knocking over that glass vase that was perched precariously on the windowsill. Abigail didn't even know me when she made this game, but she just knew to put me as the culprit. That way, everyone would assume that you were still in the kitchen and not upstairs with Helena. It was your audible alibi. Ah, I see you struck you silent at last. You aren't sure how to respond to any of this. Then maybe this will put you over the edge. I plan to have Monty's body exhumed and autopsied. I have more than enough evidence to prove that he was murdered. And once I do, if any trace of rat poison is found in his system, then you'll be the one that'll go after Miss Charlotta. Fine, okay? I did it. I'll admit it. I hated the Montagues. Everyone thought they were so generous. All I ever heard was how lucky I was to work at the chateau. But there they were, sitting on their millions, and there I was, just trying to keep my family alive. Sure, they paid me a living wage. Sure, they tried to help at times, but it was all selfish. Everything they did was to make themselves look good. Every little gift to the poor, every time they gave me a bonus, it was all so that they could show off their friends and neighbors just how benevolent they are. Brittany says I knew it. I got sick of it, and that was when I concocted my plot. But to tell you that, I'll have to reveal my partner. Casey, you should listen up. Your partner? Yes! I'll even let you guess. Hey, Casey. I think you were right. Yes, I learned of Dorian through Helena's letters. I knew her father would not approve of the match, so I wrote to him myself. I blackmailed him and threatened to expose his relationship with Helena to Lord Montague if he didn't pay me a sizable sum of money. That was when I learned that Sir Grayson was as penniless as me. He met with me in person and begged me not to tell what I knew, because he hoped to still marry Helena and through her restore his good name and fortune, but to do so, he needed Lord Montague out of the way. So that was when we decided to work together. We didn't intend to kill anyone. That's the honest truth, but things got out of hand quickly. Morgan says actually it's me and my partner is Lilo. We had hatched a plot to find the Montague's fortune and split it, but Lord Montague found out about our plot. He first threatened Grayson by saying he would expose him in England for the failure that he and his family had been in France. He told him that he would ruin his life if he ever caught him near his daughter. Then he fired me from my job as maid. I begged him to give me enough time to find a new position. I played him his mercy and he softened towards me a little. But by showing mercy, he signed his own death note. That evening, Grace and I plotted again. This time, we plotted to kill. Lord Montague never suspected that there was anything wrong with that stew. His death looked like a heart attack, and there was no reason for anyone to think otherwise. We had worked so fast that even Helena never knew about the blackmail or her father's threats against us. But it was at that point that we realized that we were closer to the fortune than ever. The only person who stood in our way was Helena, who clearly would inherit her father's wealth. She had to go. But didn't you love her? Not really. I loved her money. I loved what she could do for my place in society, now that I was starting over. But no, I didn't love her. Who could have loved that insipid, needy woman? Not I tell you. So, when I got Helena's invitation to come stay with her during her time of mourning, and I found out that she had also invited her beloved cousin Diana, and I knew that Madame Esme would most likely be along in the evening, as she always was, that Lord Violet had been lurking around so much that I expected he might be by too. It seemed like the perfect opportunity to finish the deed by taking care of Helena once and for all and pinning it on someone else. So, of course, our first plan was to make Diana the scapegoat. She was perfect, close to the family, and just the slightest bit naive. Well, I am not naive. Yeah, you kind of are. Anyway, I noticed that since Diana had arrived every time we had one of those blackouts, Diana favored one particular candle. I told Grayson that we would make it the murder weapon and pin it on her. Lilo was bribed with treats. Dorian with all the audacity. That was why you couldn't find your candlestick, Lady Diana. I remember that. So you used my candlestick to kill my cousin? Very good, Lady Di. Perhaps you aren't as naive as I originally thought. No, don't patronize me, murderer. Oh, so feisty. I like that. Ugh, you disgust me. So, why didn't you just poison Helena? It seemed to work so well for you the first time when you killed my love. We were afraid that making the two deaths look similar. We didn't want to raise anyone's suspicions. Besides, a whack on the head would be easier to pin on somebody else. But now we are going to have to find a way to make 3 more deaths look like accidents. 3? But there are only 2 of us right now. What? Where did Lord Violet go? Ugh, that little rat. Should have sent him packing hours ago. I knew he'd be nothing but trouble. I bet he's playing hide-and-seek somewhere in the house right now. Oh. No, the lights are back on. Oh, hello. I thought I heard my name mentioned. Did I miss anything? Miss anything? What were you doing? Grabbing a sandwich? We're surrounded by murderers in here. You asked if we missed anything? Charlotta and Grayson killed the Montagues. Oh, yes, I know that much. In fact, once I heard Esme say that Charlotta had rigged the breaker box, I slipped out unnoticed. I realized that if she had faked the blackout, that she probably had lied about the phones being down, too. I'm ashamed to say that we all took her word for everything, from the lights going out to the phone being down. I never thought to check those. How foolish I've been. But that would be more. Not only did I flip the breaker for the lights, but I also reconnected the phone. It had only been unplugged, by the way. We literally could have phoned for help at any time in the course of the evening. Ugh, but never mind. I called the police and they're on their way. That is all that matters. You what? Charlotta, you swore to me that this idea of yours was foolproof. How could you let me? I let it happen? Listen, there's no time to fight about this. We've got to make a break for it. Wait, where are you going to go? There's no way out of here. Chapter 6, The End. Well, I guess that's that then. The police have come and taken away those 2 criminals. And the body. Ugh, I still shiver at the thought of what we all went through tonight. The sun is rising, and the rain has stopped. I'm glad the police were able to get through even with the flooding. I suppose we were never as stranded as Charlotta wanted us to think. Yes, she really had us all going in a lot of ways. And Grayson was just as deceiving. You figured it out before any of us, Madame Massenet. I suppose that you really can see into the future. Yes, there was some of that, I suppose. But most of it I have to attribute to the desperation to get justice for the man I loved and his daughter. I've always had a keen eye for observation, and this time it paid off. If a little bit too late. Yes, may they rest in peace. I really am alone in the world now. They were my last living relatives. No, Lady Diana, I don't think you will ever be alone in the world. Thank you, Lord Violet. He's right. After what we've been through, I think the 3 of us have made a bond for life. But now the real question comes. What really happened to the Montague fortune that was supposedly hidden somewhere in the house? After tonight, I really don't care. The house will probably be passed down to you, Lady Diana. I don't know about that. With no will or a way to know what that Uncle Monty would have done with his assets, there's no way to know what is to become of the house. Besides, I don't know if I could ever live here, not after what happened tonight. I'll be glad to make it back to my caravan and my cozy little home again. I think I'll say goodbye to this old house forever. I feel the same way. 2 people were killed for a fortune we don't even know exists. Do you think we'll ever find out if there are riches hidden within these walls? I don't know. Perhaps not now, but maybe someday. Yes, someday. The end. So this was written entirely by my sister, Abigail, based on a Who's Clues mystery game that she wrote, and you can actually buy the exact game on Etsy. It was all coded by her. Everything else was, oh my goodness, wait, can we back for a second and read those again? What else is happening here? Okay, coding by Abigail Fuller using Red Pi, sounding music, public domain images. The sprites were all made by another girl. Icon updates Matthew Horn. Special thanks to... Hold on. I haven't gotten there. Let's get there. Special thanks to Brenton Fuller, Abigail's husband, Becca Maldonado, Kayleigh Rivera, Zada Swain, Kellen Gibson, and Susanna Schaefer. By the way, is me. That's me. Hi. For more, check out whosclues.com and Facebook, blah, 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 blah. Awesome. All right. So that's it. That's the game. Was that not, like, so good? So freaking good. Oh my gosh, you guys, like, literally, that is such a great game. So what did you guys think? Let's hear everybody's opinions. Whoa, hold on. Ta-da. I'm big now. Okay. That was great, Abigail. Such a great game, Abigail. Thanks for sharing it with us. So great. Yeah, it's such a fun game. All right, you guys. So that was Murder at Chateau de Rouge by Abigail Fuller. I mean, obviously, you just saw the credits. She made it all herself. So the next thing on the list is on Saturday, I will be spilling the tea with Abigail, and you can ask her all your questions that you have about the game, about learning to code, about anything. I mean, she's a really interesting person. You can ask her about being a literal ballerina. You can ask her about her murder mystery business. Like, there's so much cool stuff about her. So, yeah, watch out for the question box coming up on Friday morning, and give her all your questions, and then join us Saturday at 7:45 p.m. Eastern time. and we'll see you then. So thanks for joining, you guys. I hope you had a good time, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.